Now, I would like to share a story with you, and it's a story I learned, a bunch of years ago, and it's very interesting to me, and it jumped out at me. In 1990, yes, 1990, way back in the day, before we had running water, 1990, 35 years ago, yes. In the nation of Thailand, construction began on a brand new luxury tower that would be 47 stories high and have 600 units. This was supposed to attract wealthy people from all over the world and really boost the economy of that city and of that country. Now, this was luxury. This was not low-income housing. This was for rich people. Okay? Now, in 1993, 3 years later, the project designer and the developer was arrested on charges of a murder plot. Wow. When I read that, I was like, okay, I didn't expect that to happen. And his case would take 15 years. Now, of course, because of this, he was unable to continue to secure any funding for this building. And he couldn't complete it. And then in 1997, 4 years later, a financial crisis hit that nation. The real estate market collapsed, and all of the finance companies went bankrupt and were liquidated. Construction on over 300 buildings came to a halt. Now, as normally happens, because we've had some housing market crises here in this country. I remember when my dad had a residential electrical company when I was a college-age kid. I worked for him, and I remember in the late 80s, early 90s, we had to turn away work. We were getting so much of it. And then suddenly, boom, nobody was buying these houses, and my dad's company started to fall because we couldn't find work. But over time, slowly, as the economy recovered, many of these buildings, in fact, about 95% of them were able to be refinanced and the construction was able to be completed. About a dozen of them were not, a little more than a dozen. This tower I'm referring to is called the Sathorn Unique Tower, and it was never finished. These buildings were known, they got a nickname, they were called ghost towers. You got a picture of it. There we go, pictures of it. That's it right there. That's recent, that's from like 2023, that first one. Look at this. Look like luxury suites to you? It looks like something that was built 100 years ago and then abandoned and people just came and destroyed it, right? No, it was never finished to begin with. No one ever occupied a suite. No one ever bought property in it. No one ever held an event. No rich people came flocking from different nations and different areas to come and use this beautiful facility. And now the government has to guard the tower to keep adrenaline junkies from climbing it, either to take pictures or maybe do some crazy stuff like base jumping and things like that. And look at the pictures up there. It clearly shows that the government didn't always succeed in keeping people out of there. In fact, I know somebody who told me that they were in Thailand and climbed it. I did not turn them in. That's, But this tower has, since '97, been standing there, just a shell of what it was supposed to become. And it's a great, big, gigantic reminder to this country to remember tragedy, failure, and regret. Are you encouraged? I thought I'd bring a word to lift your spirits today. Yes. Why are we talking about this? And Sam, are you actually going to open the Bible today? I thought I would, yeah. Yeah, I think I will. That's a good idea, right? But here's why I'm telling you this story about this terrible building. I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt just like this tower? Have you ever had a season in your life? If this tower had feelings, what would it feel like? Have you ever felt that? Have you ever gone through it? Have you ever had a season of your life where you could say now, looking at this picture, that's me? Right now, what purpose is it serving? Gigantic advertising. Right? Looks like phones. Maybe on the inside during the season you feel like this. Just a wreck. Dirty, messy, cluttered. And you feel just like this building. Maybe one time in your life you had plans. You had some momentum. You had a future, and you knew where you were going. And you were heading that direction. You were facing the right way. And then all of a sudden something happened, and it turned you into that. Something just brought your life to a screeching halt, and you wondered, what in the world is going on? Now, maybe it didn't cause your life to be this much of a wreck, but rather the momentum you had gets stalled, and you didn't know which way to turn. Maybe you hit a brick wall. This is true for so many life things. Maybe you had that job, that career, and it was going okay, and you knew maybe there was some advancement going on, but then the company laid you off, or folded, or your department got closed, or they did some budget rearranging, whatever terms that they would use to make it like we need to spend less money, so see ya, out the door, right? You had a future that seemed attainable. Maybe there was a relationship you had. Maybe you thought things were going the right way, but then suddenly this person broke up with you. Maybe it was a marriage. Maybe it was a family. Maybe it was even something to do with God. Maybe 5 years ago when COVID hit, it completely stalled your life because of the area, the field you were in. Maybe when that happened, you were like, now what am I supposed to do? I had momentum. I knew where I was going. At least there was a plan. At least I saw maybe a future. But now, what am I supposed to do? And if this building had feelings, I think it would say that. All I exist for is to stand here and let people stare at me and remind them of what failure is. Maybe your life actually feels like that. Oh, that's terrible. It's angst. It's awful. Maybe you're feeling like that right now. And this is not just for one age group. It's not just for someone like me who's already raised kids and I'm wondering, what did I do with my life? A lot of people my age are like that. That's why, we go out and buy motorcycles and buy new clothes and do our hair a certain way. I don't have enough money to have a midlife crisis. So, I just get another cat, I guess. I seriously don't. I'm like, you're going to get a motorcycle? With what? That's right. Okay. COVID, career. Now, see, what stops us and what stalls us is really from two main things. It's either it's what happens to us, the things that we don't control, the things that we didn't deserve, the things that we didn't ask for, the things that are not our fault, the things that other people or organizations or systems or society or just life does to us that we did not ask for. But then there's also, it mixes with all of the decisions we make, because maybe your life came to a halt like that because of a bad choice you made. Maybe your life stalled like that. Maybe something happened to knock you right off that path because of a decision you made, or a series of decisions. Maybe you look at it and say, I messed it up. Or maybe it was a mixture of the two. I don't know. But our life, the things that affect how we live. And see, you can be a student in middle school, high school, college age, and feel like this. I applied for that school and I didn't get in. I applied for that program in that school, and they didn't accept me. I went, and then I had to leave and come home because they didn't have the money, and I didn't get financial aid, and I couldn't, I thought by now I would be married with kids, and now what's going on? I had somebody, but then they ran off, and there's so many stories, and if we lined up and shared our stories, we'd probably all just be like, whoa, we're a messed up group of people. I'm sure glad we're in church. Okay, now we're going to look at the scriptures. We're going to look at a man that fully understood what this was like. Now, when we think about a person whose life seemed to be going well, but then suddenly halted and interrupted by assault or tragedy, because think about this, maybe your life was run over because of something absolutely traumatic and horrible. We might think of Joseph, and now we're not talking about the earthly father of Jesus from the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We're talking about Joseph from the book of Genesis, who was the son of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. You hear the phrase a lot used in that book, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You hear that phrase, you read that phrase a lot. Jacob and Israel had 12 sons. Joseph was his favorite. And this happened to him about 3 to 4 times, and it wasn't minor. You know, when your brothers get jealous of you, and honestly, in my opinion, Joseph was kind of running his mouth a little bit, but he didn't deserve this. When your brothers get jealous of you and they take you and throw you in a pit and then sell you into slavery and then lie to their father saying you got killed by an animal, that's pretty traumatic. But then the person who buys you elevates you to a place of high standing in his house because of God's favor on your life. But then you get falsely accused of sexual assault, falsely accused and thrown into a dungeon for 2 years. Then that'll mess you up. Okay? That'll mess up your mental health and make you wonder what's going on. But read that story of Joseph if you haven't yet. It's a very powerful story about God's faithfulness. But today we're going to look at a lesser-known man that this happened to. Now, Brett, you've heard him say for every New Testament principle, there's an Old Testament picture. This morning we're going to look at the picture first, and then we will look at the New Testament principle a little later. Now, I'd like to show you a map, and it's an area north of the Dead Sea. I've been there. Beautiful country. Right now, pray for that region. Keep praying for that region because a lot's going on. Stuff's crazy right now. But you see the Dead Sea there, and then that river going up is the Jordan River. So this is the river Jesus got baptized in. And you see the area there, Gilead. We're going to talk about Gilead. We're going to talk about Ammon and the land of Tob. You see the different tribes, their land in that smaller area of Israel, okay? Now, about 3,000 years ago, in ancient Israel, there was a man by the name of Jephthah. Hard name to say. Incredible story. We find his story in Judges 11 and 12. Now, let me explain something about the book of Judges. This is before the times of the kings. This is before Saul, before David's sons, before all of the times of the kings of Israel. Before then, here's what would happen. There was like a roller coaster that happened with God's people. When God's people would obey him and follow him faithfully, God would put his protection and his provision onto them and bless them. But then what would happen is a generation would come on, the next generation, and they would forget the ways of the Lord. They would begin to worship foreign idols. They would begin to participate and allow those things into and ignore God, ignore their God, the one who delivered them, the one who set them free, the one who was their God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so what God would do is he would lift his hands of protection and provision on them and prosperity on them. And then the surrounding peoples who were not God's people would invade and they would steal and they would raid and they would take and oppress it to where God's people started to go through poverty and suffering, and then they would finally get on their faces and cry out to God, and God in his infinite mercy and love for his people would rescue them by raising someone up to lead them. And in the book of Judges, this is what happened. And then they would turn their lives back over to God. They would begin to serve him faithfully, and it went back and forth and back and forth. If you read the 2 books of Kings and Chronicles, man, do you ever see this. Now, some of these Old Testament people, they get just a couple of verses of a mention. But Jephthah has 2 whole chapters in the book of Judges, 11 and 12. And we're going to focus on one huge part of his story because he's got a bunch of stuff that happened. This guy was amazing and messed up at the same time. He made great decisions and dumb decisions at the same time. Judges 11, verses 1 through 3. Now Jephthah the Gileadite, Gilead was on that map that you saw there, was a mighty warrior, but he was the son of a prostitute. Gilead was the father of Jephthah. Now Gilead had a lot of land there, and so the people there were called Gileadites, and Gilead himself was the father of Jephthah. And Gilead's wife also bore him sons. When his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, "You shall not have an inheritance in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman." Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob, that was in that northeast corner of that map. And worthless fellows, scoundrels, collected around Jephthah and went out with him. Now we're going to look at Jephthah. The first term here to describe him was mighty warrior. Now these are two Hebrew terms that are very similar in meaning, but they're different words. But the writer here put them together on purpose to describe Jephthah. And it not surprising what they mean, but it adds a lot of meat to this description. The word mighty really means strong, brave, and heroic like a soldier. And the word warrior means strength, efficiency, and valor like an army. So there's very much a military tone to these two terms. The King James uses the phrase mighty man of valor. Yes. I did that for you, just for you. But it's a great description, because mighty man of valor, the word really means valor. These two terms put together, mighty warrior. So he was not just some big, tough oaf that didn't have a brain and could take a punch, and when he hit you back, he knocked you into next week. That's not how this worked. He was extremely smart. He was efficient. He was strategic. This is the guy you want to make a general that's planning your battles, that leads your army, because he knows what he's doing, and he can actually go out and do what he's planning to do. This guy was tough and smart. Now, we are going to look at that word to describe his mother, prostitute. Now, we all have our own thoughts when we hear that word and read that word. But did you know that one word is actually two Hebrew words combined? One word and another that clearly defines the first word. The word is actually Isha. It means wife, woman, married woman, also used to describe an adulteress. Wait a minute. Why did they translate this to the word prostitute if the word means wife and married woman? The other word connected to it, these two words together got translated as one word in English. It's another Hebrew word that blatantly means the word harlot. King James uses that word. And that is what we know that word to mean. How do those words go together? Here's what this means. Here's the conclusion that we can draw from this. Jephthah's mom was a woman his father slept with outside of marriage, but then he married her. She was not the same mom as all of his brothers. She wasn't just someone that he met because he was being stupid one night and paid money and then left and never saw her again. He married her. So yes, he had more than one wife. We won't go into that in the Old Testament. There's a lot of that in there. Let's not go into that now. But that's what happened. That's not saying God wanted this. That's not saying God approved of this. It's saying here's what happened. It's a historical account. So Jephthah's mom was there with them because he was under the covering of Gilead's house. Gilead married her. And here's Jephthah. Gilead's wife also bore him sons. Wife is the same word as above, Isha. It just doesn't include the other term. Okay? So now you have these sons, and here you have Jephthah, the half-brother. And when they told him, you're the son of another woman, that word woman is that same term, Isha, wife. You're the son of another wife. They weren't saying because you were the son of some person way out there that we never met. You're the son of this woman under our house, under the roof of our house. And this rejection, think about this rejection. Maybe you've gone through rejection that has been like this traumatic for you. They didn't just say to Jephthah, hey, Jephthah, listen, we know you're smart, we know you're really strong and everything, but we just think it's best if you go live somewhere else because this is just too much, this is like a toxic atmosphere in my house and I just can't deal with this. So maybe you should go live somewhere else. You're strong, you can make it. We believe in you, Jephthah. No. We are going to act like you never even existed in the first place. When we're talking, you don't get an inheritance in our Father's house. Do you know what that meant? Inheritance, man, we should do a whole series on inheritance. Inheritance was so strong, like if you lose that, it's the worst thing that you might as well not be alive. This is why what Esau did by giving up his birthright was so damaging. They didn't just expel him. We're going to act like you were never born. The name Jephthah never existed. And you think being canceled these days is bad? Try having that happen to you. And it says, scoundrels surround him and go with him. Now the term means empty and worthless. Empty and worthless people. A bunch of dudes that were sitting around accomplishing nothing with their lives, doing nothing, just taking up space and breathing air. Started going with him. And when it said that they collected around him, what that means is he gathered them up. They just basically said, okay, we'll go with you. You know why? Notice something there. Notice how his God-given gifts and talents still operated. He was a leader. He was skilled. And in the middle of this awful mess, God's gifts and talents were still in operation in his life. He wasn't using them the way God wanted. But people followed him. And listen, when they went to Tob, I don't believe they behaved themselves. They weren't holding church services and having a food drive to feed the hungry. I don't think they were behaving. Okay, now the Ammonites. They were to the east. They were enemies with Israel. Now let me tell you something about the Ammonites. They worshiped a god named Molech. If you've ever done any Bible study about pagan gods, you'll know about Molech. This is awful, how they would appease Molech. What they would do is human sacrifice of children was part of their worship. You think church is too long here? Try having that kind of pressure on you to appease. We're not here to appease God. We're here to love him. And this Molech was an idol that had hands out like this. And under a blazing fire under it, and then they would take babies, children, and throw them into the hands. That's how they appeased their god Molech. The brutality. So you think like war meant anything to them? The concept of the mercy on a human life and compassion for a human life meant anything to them? These were a people that did evil, so much evil in the eyes of God. And they decided they wanted to attack Israel. They're right next to Gilead, so that's where they would go. So guess what the Gileadites did? They found Jephthah. They went to Tob and found Jephthah. No, wait a minute, I thought you were going to act like he never existed, but you know where he is? You were keeping tabs on him? Okay. They found Jephthah and they said, please come back and lead our armies. Would you come back? If you lead our armies, we have a chance against these people. We might win if you lead the armies. Please come back. Now, how would you respond? When I first read this, something like in me was just, I can't use certain words in church for what I want to say to these people. You know what I mean? But he responded the way you and I might respond. Oh, now you want my help. You threw me out and act like I don't exist, and now you want me to come save you? Really? Get out of here. But they promised, if you do this for us, we will put you in charge of all of Gilead. We will put you in charge. All right. So he agreed. And in verse 11 it says this, Judges 11:11. So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and leader over them. And Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord at Mizpah. Now there's a lot going on here, and I'm going to give you just a sum up of the story of what happens next. I know I'm spending a lot of time on Jephthah's story, but you've got to understand the impact of his rejection and watch what God is about to do. Jephthah went to the Ammonites first to persuade them to stop their attacks and make peace. Do you know why? Because the reason they were attacking Israel was based on falsehood. The reason they felt like they needed to attack Israel was not true. They heard something bad. They heard something that was a lie. They heard falsehood, and they responded to it as if it was true. And Jephthah went to them to tell them, listen, this isn't true. Your reason for hating us and wanting to attack us, it isn't valid. So go home. They ignored him. So he went and got his army and marched against the Ammonites. Here's what happened, verse 32 and 33. Chapter 11 of Judges. So Jephthah crossed over to the Ammonites to fight against them, and the Lord gave them into his hand. And he struck them from Aroer to the neighborhood of Minnith, 20 cities, and as far as Abel-Keramim with a great victory. So the Ammonites were subdued before the people of Israel. Very different stages of life, would you say? One day, mighty warrior, smart, battlefield commander, tough. The next day, cast out like yesterday's garbage. And another day, he's winning battles for the very people who threw him out. And now he's in charge of them. Garbage one day, in charge the next. Humiliated one day, exalted the next. Here's the question. Why read this story, and what does this have to do with me? These days, I work in a school. These days, the phrase active shooter is a part of everyday conversation, isn't it? We don't just have tornado drills and fire drills, we have lockdown drills, active shooter drills. Right now, it's so wonderful, isn't it? How society is just all getting along. We all love each other. Everyone is just happy. Nobody's screaming at each other. We're just like, oh, you voted that way? Yes, I voted this. Oh, let's go have some lunch. Right? Everyone is so angry. It seems like you take this out and it's like angry, 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 angry. Everyone's angry. Everyone's mad. And we're being told horrible things, and now we're worried about what's going on in Israel, in Iran, and the surrounding nations. And then we're having an argument about amendments, and hey, that guy's a racist. No, he's not. Did you see what he posted? You're not listening. Climate change, the world is dying. No, it's made up. Come on. And then what do we say to our kids in high school? I know you're 16, but I want you to decide right at this very moment what you're going to do for the next 50 years. Decide now, do it now, do it now. Sign up now. We're recruiting you. Let's go. Oh, do it now. I'm being dramatic because that's how they feel. And they say, why can't I wait and just work for a while and make some money? No, you need to get a degree. Go to college now. You deal with breakups, disappointments. You know, I asked that one girl out. She said no, but then all of a sudden next week I see her with my best friend. What happened? Overwhelming worry and fear. And just one desire to just feel safe. Just the overwhelming desire to I just want to feel safe. We got older generations yelling, entitled, angry, selfish generation. And then the younger generation's like, you out-of-touch boomer, what's wrong with you? And it's just like, and you're just like yelling and name-calling. And then sometimes when you try to share your heart and your struggle, you're met with, well, get over it. Oh, you think you had it bad? Let me tell you about my life. And then we have a competition of who's got the most depression and anxiety. Listen, I'm trying to identify real tension here. And here we are as the body of Christ. Here we are as believers, those of you who are followers of Jesus, in the middle of it all, trying to live for Jesus. This is why you hear this all the time. Thousands of people wake up every day without hope. You've heard it said all the time. This is true. So what's the point? And here's what happens with people who get so stuck in that. What's the point? They say, why even try? Why even try to plan a future? I mean, according to some people, we won't even have one. All I want is just to have some quiet. Maybe I just want to get out of my house or my town and start over where nobody knows me. And it's no wonder why so many struggle with their very identity. It's no wonder why so many struggle with anxiety and depression, because by swimming in all of this noise, you wonder why even try to get out. And it's no wonder that so many will even shut down and check out and try their best to no longer be alive on this earth. Because they still see themselves as the Sathorn Unique Tower in Thailand. Or they see themselves as Jephthah after he was thrown out by his family, and they say, I guess that's all there is for me. Here's what I have to say to you. This is what I have spent a long time creating this heaviness. And I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to walk out here going, man, I went to church and got depressed. Okay. Don't let that guy preach again. But to all of you, I say this. There is another chapter to your story. Just as God was not done with Jephthah and had some really great things for him, things that Jephthah could never have thought he would ever do, he has great things for you to live out. Now, I'm going to explain more in just a bit. I'm a follower of Jesus. And here's the deal. No one can talk me out of this because no one talked me into it. I didn't get talked into my daddy's religion. Now, when I was younger, it felt like it sometimes. But I'm telling you right now, no one can talk me out of this because I didn't get conned into it. And I don't do this because my mom and dad did. I was very blessed to have that. But I don't do it because they serve the Lord. I do this because I gave my life to Jesus myself. I have experienced his power, love, mercy, and grace for myself. I have walked this very road of wondering what I was supposed to do with the rest of my life. I know what it's like to be on the side of the road, laying there, wounded and bruised and bleeding, wondering, is this all there is for me? I guess I'm done. I am that NFL quarterback that just won't retire and keeps trying to play and keeps getting hurt. And now I'm third string. They'll use me if they got no one else. I guess that's all there is for me. I know what it's like to feel that. I know what it's like to be there and to say, there's nothing here. There is nothing left. How can anything be there for me? And then watching God orchestrate some things in my life and plan some things out and put me on a path like I could have never scripted that. I could have never thought of that. I could have never planned that. Hey, I'm so glad I follow him. Now here's the principle in the New Testament that we just saw the picture of in the Old Testament. Philippians 1, 6-7, the first part of 7. I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. So it is right that I should feel as I do about all of you, for you have a special place in my heart. The writer of this letter is Paul, the apostle, and he's writing to the followers of Jesus in the city of Philippi, and he's telling them this. He, God, who began a good work in you, will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. Completion, perfection, that's when he's done. He was telling them that what God started, he perfects and accomplishes. You are not the half-done project in your garage, the half-painted bathroom, the half-remodeled kitchen, where you ran out of money and went, I guess I'll get to at some point. That's not how God works. And you might think, wait a minute, okay, that makes sense if I understood what God ever did for me. What is this good work that he began? What are you talking about? Because maybe you're having a hard time even understanding that or receiving that. What is this good work? I'll describe it this way. My favorite psalm, Psalm 139, the writer of this psalm says this to the Lord. For you formed my inward parts. This is verse 13 to 16. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them. Whew. You see, there's a story that's been written for your life, a script. But the one who has written it is the one who breathed life into you when you were conceived. And whatever the circumstances were around how you came to be, look at Jephthah. Do you think God wanted Gilead to go find some other woman? But here's Jephthah. And maybe how you came to be on this earth was not the traditional way. Mom and dad get married, try to have kids, succeed, and here you are. That's what happened to me and my brothers. That's what happened with our kids. Maybe the reason you're here, no reason, bad wording. Maybe you came to be physically on this earth because of something unplanned. Maybe you said you were told you weren't wanted. Maybe the whole thing, you were an oops, a mistake, oops. Didn't mean for that to happen, and that's what you carried all your life, and you laughed it off, but it really hurt because now you're like, well, I'm not even supposed to be here because I'm an oops. I'm an accident. Maybe you came to be on this earth because your biological mom was assaulted, and here you are. Maybe your mom and dad were young and made a stupid mistake, but here you are, and now you're like, now I'm a stupid mistake. Listen to me. Man, this is going to set you free if you embrace this. Listen. No matter the circumstances around how you came to be, planned or not, God is the one who breathed life into you. In that moment, He breathed the breath of life into your being. And instantaneously, there was a story written for you. He made an epic story for you. And He doesn't want you to act it out. He wants you to live it out. The circumstances around how you physically came to be are not a defining factor in your value to God or your value on this earth. I'm not more valuable because my parents did it the traditional way. I'm valuable because Jesus died for me. Listen to this. This is the value. This is the work God started. Romans 5, 8-9. But God showed His great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. And since we have been made right in God's sight by the blood of Christ, He will certainly save us from God's condemnation. That's the work He's begun. Maybe you have not even had a life serving the Lord. That's what He's begun in you. And He is faithful to complete it. And He's not done until your time on earth is over or until Jesus comes back. Now, my family, I'm almost done here. My family is a theater family. Yes, we are. We love musical theater. We do. We deal with scripts all the time. When you're handed a script, you have to memorize it, follow it, all the lines, attitudes, moods, and directions. But you are acting something that you're not, right? Maybe you're living under the pressure of a script someone else has written for you, what others have pressed at you. You have to live this or live that out, and as if they know who and what you're supposed to be. And you haven't had a real chance to find out what God wants from you. Well, listen, back in 2018, they made a sequel to Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins Returns. Let me tell you something about Dick Van Dyke. In the original, in the 60s, I think it was, he played the main chimney sweep guy, and then he also played a dual role. He played another role as a really old banker. Okay? They brought him back at 94 years old to play the role of that banker again. Okay? He shows up. This guy's insane. He shows up. He climbs on a desk and dances. 94 years old. Oh, yes, Lord, I will take that. I would love to be that spry at 94. But he climbs on the desk and dances as he sings this. And these verses stood out to me, and I'm going to read them, and then I'm going to twist them a little bit, because There's so much gospel in here and what God thinks of us. So when they tell you that you're finished and your chance to dance is done, that's the time to stand, strike up the band, and tell them you've just begun. So when life's a real pea souper, means thick fog, you must choose to be a trooper, for your light comes with a lifetime guarantee as you trip a little light fantastic with me. So when you tell you, or other voices tell you, or circumstances tell you that you're finished and your chance to dance is done, that's the time to stand in the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ in your life, to strike up the band and tell them you've just begun. I'm not done. So when life's a real pea souper, when you are facing the thick, dark fog of life, you must choose to be a trooper, for your light, the light of Christ in your life, comes with a lifetime guarantee. It's for your life. Time to dance. How do you rise above the pressure? Society, anxiety, depression, disappointment, all that stuff. What do you do now to live your everyday life? Because we're all going to leave this place and we have a week in front of us, don't we? Right? What do you do to affect the culture around you? All of our generations can do in such a powerful way. Now, each of us has one main purpose, and that's to glorify God through Jesus. We have one identity. Let's find it in Christ. Find your identity in Jesus Christ. Throw away every script besides the one God wrote for you and live out His story. And that story doesn't end until He comes back or your time on earth is done. If you are still breathing, there is something God has for you for your life. You are not just supposed to coast the rest of your life. You're not done. Think about this church too. What about Faith Church Huron? Look at our history. Some of you go way back with this building. And you have a real emotional attachment and special connection to this place. Look what God has done. Look what God is doing. He's not done. Here's what I mean. Look what God has done, but He is not done. He's not done with you. All right, worship team, come on. Go ahead and come on up if you guys would. Thank you so much for leading worship today. The work God does. Here's a statement that I want us to really take home with us. Think about the work God does in our lives. God never leaves His work half done, and He never does it half-hearted. I'm going to say that again. God never leaves His work half done, and He never does it half-hearted. He completes everything He begins. He's already begun. He sent Jesus. Now He wants to rebuild again and again and again, and another thing and another thing. You are not a ghost tower. You're a masterpiece. And He's not finished building you. And even though circumstances or something in your life may have stalled that, may have stopped that, and you think, is this all there is? No, there's still something. I know it hurts. I know it's tough. I know many seasons are hard. It's hard because you can't see 3 feet in front of you. You don't know where to go or what to do. I know that, but if you and I would keep our eyes on Jesus and trust Him meaning I'm taking my hands off the control of my life and I'm going to trust Him because He's got my future set. He's got my future planned. And no matter what anyone does to me, no matter what society says or does, no matter what life just does to me, no matter what happens, I'm still breathing. God's not done with His work in my life. Jesus said this in Matthew 16, 24 to 25. Jesus said to His disciples, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. Now, some people think that means that you have to physically die for Jesus. I don't believe that. I believe what this means is I'm giving up my entire existence. I'm giving up my plans. I'm giving up my dreams. I'm laying them at the feet of the cross, and I'm saying, God, these are yours. I'm going to walk out your plan for me. What is it? Show me what to do. That's taking up your cross to follow. Now, if you're here and you're not following the Lord yet, if you haven't decided to give your life to Jesus and to become a follower of His, and you need to hear this message, we're going to take some time to respond here because I want to tell you something. The world can be scary, especially these days. And to look out there and say, what am I supposed to do with my life when I'm wondering what's even going to be happening in the next 6 months? I'm going to tell you right now, the best thing for you is to say, Jesus, I surrender to you. I give my life to you, and I will follow you. I will lay down everything that's in my dreams and in my plans, and I will follow you, and I will do it your way. I will live out the story you've written for me. And we're going to take some time to respond here. And then as the worship team plays, as they sing the song, if you really need to respond to this, whether you need to just give your life to Jesus and say, I'm going to start this. I see the work that God has begun, okay? And I want to embrace that, and I want to walk this life. We're going to have people up front that will be here to pray with you. Also, there's areas for you to just come pray on your own. If you just want to pray on your own, we have this area in front we call the altar area. There's nothing magical about the carpet up here or anything. It's just a space that we give an opportunity for you to have space to come pray. Now, you say something, you might say, well, listen, I don't like to be in front of people. That's fine. I promise you, no one in here is going to be staring at you, criticizing you. Because if you come up to pray, we're going to be supporting you and praying with you. But if you want, can I pray at my seat? Absolutely. But I'm going to ask, if you do that, please let us know. Let us know. Come up to us after service and let us know that that's what you've been praying about. But we're going to give you a chance to respond. But the best way to respond to a message like this, and anytime you hear a message, is to walk out those doors and live it out in your everyday life. Finding and following Jesus in every area of our lives, right? So I'm going to pray for you. And if you want to respond by giving your life to Christ, rededicating your life to Christ, or I just need God to help me because I'm struggling with this season. Remember, He's not done. He's not done. And He loves you so much. No matter how rough it is for you, no matter how smooth it is for you, He's not done. He's not done. And this world needs us. Father God, I just thank you for everyone here, and I thank you for your word, and I thank you for the fact that you died for us. I thank you, God, that you didn't just create this earth and walk away and just look at a distance going, I guess they're just going to mess it up. No, you are here. Your presence is here, and you love us so much that you sent Jesus to die for us while we were still sinners. Lord, that is the work you've begun. I just pray that you would pierce the hearts of everyone here that needs to hear from you. And I ask, God, that you would change lives as we pray. And as we worship you, receive this worship. We ask. In Jesus' name.